Hi everyone, thanks for watching. My name is Desiree Schneider. I'm an online editor for DVZ, Deutsche Verkehrszeitung, the leading German logistics newspaper and online publication. Today I welcome Eric Dharma, VP Corporate Development from Waresix, a young and innovative trucking and warehousing platform in Indonesia. Hi Eric.
Hi,
Nice to have you here today.
thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege.
You will also be attending the Innovators Day of the Hamburg-based Kühne Logistics University tomorrow at the 4th of February, right?
Correct.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I just recently finished school, so I have a bit of a passion for learning, and if we can be part of that, that's great.
Yeah, if I read correctly, your startup actually just won an award in December last year.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, tell me, what
We
was it all about?
we were selected as emerging logistics innovator award, and it felt good. It felt like it was validation for some of the long hours that we've been putting in.
Sweet. And can you tell me some key facts, key points about yourself? Like, how did you come to be where you are right now? You've said you just been a student, so have you been actually part of the founding process?
Okay, just a quick backstory
Mhm.
is I was in the consumer goods space where we were the customer of the logistics providers.
Mhm.
And I think what I took from that experience was that um, it was an annoying process. And because the logistics space in Indonesia is extremely messy,
Mhm.
um, still very manual. Everything is non-standardized. So to give you an example on that, we would sometimes order a truck, and the truck that would arrive would have a smaller box than the one that had arrived yesterday, even if it was from the same transport vendor. And then we would be able to fit less stuff in it, and it would be an
Mhm.
unexpected complexity. Um, And so after I spent a few years at this consumer goods company as a customer of logistics, I went and did my MBA. And so when I finished it, I think about 2 years ago now, I had this desire to be part of something that was kind of fixing that pain point that I experienced. And it turns out that this company, Waresix, had two founders who had a slightly different perspective of logistics than I did. So I was the customer, the CEO and co-founder was a distributor, and then the CFO and co-founder was a transporter. And so I think when the three of us put our heads together, we can see the various problems that this industry has. And I think that that's kind of the way we look at it, right? We're trying to solve the pain points for every single party, right? It's not just one, it's all. And that's that we believe that that's the only way you can actually tackle this issue.
Can you tell me a bit more about the Indonesian logistics market? What does characterize it?
Uh, I think the first thing that I would share is that the logistics space in Indonesia is about a quarter of the Indonesian GDP, a
Mhm.
quarter, and that's incredibly high. If you take our neighbors in Southeast Asia, they're less than half of that. If you take developing nations, they're probably around 5%. And so that difference there is it basically what it results in is people have to pay higher prices for their goods. Companies have to they enjoy smaller margins because of this additional cost, and it's indicative of an inefficient space. Um, and some of that comes from the fact that Indonesia is an archipelago nation. The largest archipelago nation actually. There's 17,000 islands in Indonesia. And what that means is that the traditional solution that you might employ in, you know, landlocked nations, they don't work here, right? Because we cannot rely on trucks alone. It requires coordination between, you know, trucking, and then sometimes you have to drop it off at the warehouse, and you got to get it to the port, and then you got to get on a boat, and you know, there's lots of many steps. And you compound that with the fact that everything here is non-standardized and everything here is manual, right? So imagine trying to book that one trip when you have to find a truck, a warehouse, a boat, and then back to the warehouse and another truck, and you're trying to coordinate that by phone. It's incredibly difficult.
Very fragmented.
Yes. In so fact that I believe that there's no single trucking player that's more than 1% of the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one's even close. So it's incredibly
That's
fragmented.
incredible. And how does Waresix fit in?
So basically what we try to do is we want to take this space and organize it. And how do we do that? We're employing technology.
Mm-hmm.
We know that this space cannot be solved through technology alone. We know that it still requires operational excellence. But at the same time, we know that without technology, this industry that really hasn't changed for many, many years will never change, right? And it's quite simple, right? The concepts are really, really simple. When we introduced our order blasting feature, which is simply you input the order once and then you can blast it to however many vendors you want, whether that be a single vendor that you selected or 1,000 vendors that we have in our network. That single feature, can you imagine how much time it saved, right? Where before you would have to message it 1,000 times or forward it 1,000 times. Instead, now it's by system, right? It's a simple innovation, a simple little, you know, tool, and yet it can change the way you do your logistics. You know, think about if you can now have access to 1,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 vendors. How does that change your perspective on who you would give the responsibility of moving your goods to?
It's a large scale, and I think a lot more options than a lot of logistics forwarders would have nowadays without your platform.
Yeah, and I think that's you've touched upon a key point, which is like we're really not here to displace the players, right? Actually, we want the customers to kind of behave the way they used to behave, but make their life a little bit easier, right? We don't want the forwarders or the transporters to change the way they behave. We just want to give them more access and democratize the data, right? Make that information readily available. So we want to work with people. We want to work with the existing players, and just, you know, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to make it so that, you know, the customer A and the vendor B can just really connect really easily.
You don't want to disrupt, you want to change by helping. And could you give me a few key numbers about Sixfold? Like, how big is your company now? In which places do you operate? How many customers and vendors do you have in your network?
Sure. So we have two areas of strength, the island of Sumatra and the island of Java. And these are the two most populous islands, and they you have to take a ferry, yeah, to connect them if you want to go by truck. And what we've done is we've tried to expand using a network density model, right? We want to have real focus in this one area. In fact, we do it on a route level, right? So this point A to point B, we want to have a lot of scale and density in this route, and then we move on to somewhere else, right? And we're kind of going from point to point. So we connect A to B, and then maybe we'll connect B to C, and then if we can connect C to A, that's the best, right? Because then you get a loop or a round trip, and that's how we expand. And so we've been expanding through the land routes, and then we just recently started connecting the sea routes, which I mentioned earlier, because the island nation, it's important. So we have from the northern tip of Sumatra to the eastern tip of Java. Now we're starting to connect those. And then how do we do so? We currently have over 40,000 trucks on the network. And I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot because, you know, some of the largest transporters probably have around 2,000, right? So that access is quite strong. It allows us to create a smoothness in your supply, right? Where otherwise, with let's say only 2,000, you wouldn't be able to create as much smoothness as we can. But what does that mean in the whole space? I mean, it still means we're quite small because there's over 5 million trucks, or 6 million maybe even. So in the grand scheme of things, we're still very small, right? There's still a lot of room to grow. And for us, that's exciting, right? That's like a challenge. It's an opportunity, and it gives us a chance to kind of experiment and try new things and innovate.
What are you experimenting with at the moment? Is there anything you could share?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier about the order blasting, right? And Waresix operates what we call a curated platform or a curated marketplace. And that differs from an open marketplace because we determine who connects. So in an open marketplace, typically you're going to connect based on price. But because we serve B2B customers and we know that they have specific needs. They have specific needs about, let's say, if they have very fragile goods, they want trucks that have good shocks. Or if we have customers that are doing cement, let's say, they don't really care about the quality of their truck. They're looking for the best price. And so we take these needs of the customers and we really map it out. And we find the vendors that have the best capability and the best assets in order to fulfill it. And so right now, that connection is based on it's quite a simple algorithm, really. We only take a few metrics that we've already outlined about the type of truck and where they're strong in their routes, etc. And what we're building in now is the ability to automate that at scale, right? And to be able to see what's happening real time and to be able to react to it real time. So if some of them are previously we placed them, and there are maybe some better ones some better vendors that could do it with greater service level or with lower price, that will be generated by the system.
And do you also have aims where you want to be in like 5 or 10 years? How big you want to get as the company? How much you want to expand? Or yeah, just targets?
I mean, the sky's the limit, right? It's a very, very big market. It's like a $250 billion market, right? And honestly, there's not many markets that are this big. So where do we want to be? I can clearly say that, going back to my previous point, we want to have a lot of areas where we have network density, right? We want to have a lot of areas where we can, I guess I kind of see it like an orchestra. We're orchestrating the movement of the trucks and the goods. We want it to be as seamless as possible, right? And I can give you an example of this, actually. We have observed in the market that for the FMCG space where I was, consumer goods, there is a problem that we call detention. And what that is that when you send the goods, sometimes the recipient warehouse is full and they're unable to unload the goods. And so the truck has to wait overnight or multi-nights. In fact, with some customers that we have, multinationals, the truck can be waiting for weeks. In fact, our record is more than a month. And the problem with that is twofold. The customer is paying for every single night of detention or overnight. So that's extra expense that they're paying for not a good reason. And the second thing is, for the transporter, It means that that truck, even though it's generating a small income, you cannot use it to go back and service anyone. And if they already have a minimum or a volume contract agreement, that means that the only way they can fulfill that is by adding trucks, right? And so, one of the solutions that Waresix has is integrating our warehouse network, of which we have approximately 400, with our trucking, where we have over 40,000, so that we can, in lieu of doing detention, you can unload the goods at our warehouse, and then that truck can go and take the next trip. And instead, the goods will wait, and when it's ready, we can do a short trip to the recipient warehouse. And so this kind of like orchestra, where everything is kind of being moved or is waiting or is on the way, but in time, in step, instead of like very kind of jaggedy and like, oops, it's full, let's go back, or oops, it's full, let's wait. I think that's the goal, right? That kind of smoothness. Yeah.
How did Corona affect you?
Well, I mentioned earlier, right? There are some changes from the customer side on how they perceive digitization, how they are more open to it. But to be honest, when we looked at the numbers, Q2 last year, year on year, I think logistics industry was down 40%, 40. And so that was definitely a challenge. Luckily, just because of the space we're in and maybe the model that we're employing, we are still able to grow, and I guess you could say grow significantly. But it definitely entailed its challenges. You saw customers trying to renegotiate rates, or you saw transporters changing the way they were thinking. They were moving away from, hey, I want to make profits and grow my business, and it was more towards, hey, I need to survive. And like it's tough to see, some of your vendor partners, and we believe that they're our partners, suddenly they're suffering, and with limited demand in the market, volumes dropping, our ability to help them sustain their demand was also limited, right? And so, we would do our best to make sure we were quite steady, and like I said, we were growing, but still, like, it's just they were losing a lot of their other demand. So I think for us, it was an evaluation on, how do we see risk in the market, right? And this Corona is definitely a huge curveball into our plans, right? But I think what it really demonstrates to us is that nimble and agile mindset that we've kind of adopted because we're a startup. It's really important. And it's really important, not just because, we are, iterating our product every day and iterating our service every day, but it really helped when, something big came along. And a lot of people, I think, were frozen, didn't know what to do, but I think we just kind of put our heads down and like, let's try a bunch of stuff, right? We're going to try this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so that really worked well. So.
You mentioned you've actually been growing steadily during the crisis, or still are. Do you have like a comparison or number or growth rate for me?
Yeah, we've managed to grow triple digits continuously through, all the years and stuff. So.
Awesome, congratulations. And yeah, this would also be the end of our interview. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I said quite a bit already.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for taking part in it, Eric. Speaking to me, taking the time, and I hope you have a lovely day.
You too.